It was so beautiful this morning to watch President Trump addressing the National Association of Sheriffs in Washington, D.C. It was so beautiful to see Veritas, as the 45th President of the United States, read repeatedly, very, very slowly to the television cameras and to the hundreds of millions of people that will end up watching it, the millions watching live, that he's following the exact law that many, many presidents have used, and that his executive order was only a limited, highly restrained use of existing law. Now, you juxtapose that with the cloud cuckoo land corporate psyop media, much of it openly run by leftist foundations that control the CIA. This is all declassified, telling you that if there's a blue sky, you don't see that sun up there at high noon, talking to you like you're crazy. The Germans believed it. The Russians were 2 miles away from Hitler's chancellery, and Germans still believed that the Fuhrer was going to win and that Steiner was defeating them. And you got to understand, MSM's in the biggest cult of it all. They are totally indoctrinated and hired because of narcissistic tendencies and cult tendencies, believing they're invincible and unstoppable even as the Allied forces close in a pincer attack. I'm using the German analogy because we have Der Spiegel here. The same folks that brought us the iconic image, I got to say it's a powerful image, of Trump chopping the head off of the Statue of Liberty, when actually they used to bring folks in and test them for TB and the bubonic plague. Now they don't test them for that. I've had Border Patrol union heads on. They bring people in with TB, but get this, leprosy. And then it ends up in Los Angeles schools. Remember I told you about that 4 years ago? We had ICE officers' faces blurred. Oh, yes, leprosy spreading all over the United States, but they keep it real quiet. So the truth is, we should show an image of Trump trying to battle jihadis cutting a woman's head off, because that's what he's doing, trying to block people from Libya, an open failed state that Hillary and Obama and his cohorts created, like the Secretary of State after that, John Kerry, or Syria, the civil war they helped launch 5 years ago, aiding the jihadis out of Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and other countries to invade and take it over. Their whole project of the Arab Spring, overthrowing our allies in Egypt, having Peter Sutherland of the UN Migration Board open the borders of Europe up and invite in the Muslim radical hordes to destabilize the once free Western republics. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, that would be the real image, would be jihadis cutting the Statue of Liberty's head off. But again, most people don't even know the Statue of Liberty's real history, or that if memory serves me, wasn't it refused by a Muslim country? Let's look up the history of that and see if my memory serves. It's like Der Spiegel today. I said, the mainstream media is committing seppuku. And they said, what is that? And I said, I believe it's suicide in Japan, honorable suicide with a short sword. But I said, let's Google it. Can the guys Google that for me real quick? I forgot to do that. Let's see if my memory from 25 years ago is, I'm correct? Let's put seppuku up on screen. Am I right that Egypt refused? Isn't it fitting? The Muslims refused the Statue of Liberty as an occultic omen at the entrance of the Nile into the Mediterranean. Let's look that up and see if the old conspiracy diddly-doop has the info correct. The crew's in there telling me I'm correct. Let's put seppuku on screen. Seppuku, S-E-P-P-U-K-U, is what Der Spiegel and the MSM is doing in front of all of us. The practice of thrusting a short sword into the right side, into the liver, and going up towards the middle sternum and jabbing the tip of the blade into the heart. Of course, MSM will probably tell us hearts don't exist and women never gave birth vaginally, and that breasts never produce milk because the state produces milk as they teach the children to pray to Hugo Chavez in Venezuela. But let me continue before I digress anymore. We've got a big broadcast and a bunch of special guests. Milo's joining us. And so much more today. But we got the little secret document. It's up on Infowars.com. Dr. Jerome Corsi, 3-time #1 New York Times bestseller investigative journalist, has gotten the document. Leaked docs. Brock conspires with Facebook, Google to shut down conservative media. And we have the blueprint. Our little Boffin spies were able to get into the Imperial database and get you that information. And no amount of little David Brocks. He's now cut his little poodle haircut down, knows what a clown he looks like. He's now reinventing himself again. Radical left launches scorched earth policy against free speech. And then we see the results of it today. New video game, Punch a Nazi, glorifies assaulting Milo and Trump supporters because if you have blonde hair or blue eyes, you're bad, which is basically the same thing as Nazism, just reversed. Facebook blocks links to stories about immigration as abusive. Twitter removing core functions, banning alt-right to create liberal safe space. The left hates you. Act accordingly. Powerful town hall article. And meanwhile, the Army preps for urban warfare in megacities, mass migration, disaster, and inner city turmoil. And what will the media do? They'll say, Alex Jones out of the clear blue sky said the military was training to invade America and take your guns. I didn't say that. I said I'm going to get to a report from the Army itself where they're preparing for mass implosion of the borders, civil unrest, and basically collapse of society. I'm not saying the Army wants to do this. I'm not saying the Army's bad. I'm not saying that there's a coming invasion. I'm saying we're going to cover their own documents where they're massively preparing for civil unrest George Soros and his cohorts are funding. But instead, they'll just say, Jones says the Army's going to invade Texas and enslave everyone and hope that limited audience of pseudo-intellectuals with 2 or 3 worthless college degrees that are totally freaked out without a family, without anything, but they've got, you know, cool facial hair or whatever, and they don't know why they have nothing, and they're just screaming out saying, I'll triple down on your engineering. I'll do whatever you say. I won't live in a single family dwelling. I won't have a car. I'll do whatever you say. I'll take all the Prozac. Just make me happy. And they say, we're never going to make you happy. Now go beat up an old white woman because she's white. And they're like, but I'm white. Prove that you know whites are bad. Attack the other whites. But you're white. It's okay. I'm a master white. I'm a good white. Now we have all these immigrant friends we've brought in who we've taught to hate the whites, but we lead them. Understand? Classic divide and conquer. And you can read all the WikiLeaks, keep them desperate, keep them in the dark, keep them freaked out, use cultural warfare, escalate the culture wars, escalate. These are horrible, evil people, and we have them. We have them dead to rights, exposed from pillar to post, up one side and down the other, but still they're in the bunker. Mein Führer, the Steiner will defeat them. Yes, we have armies here and there, and we will win. We will, Lord Soros says he will help us. Yes, so he will, literal Nazi collaborator. Yes, so now the analogy becomes back to reality because it's what we're facing. And only by reaching out to the program left with all their Nazi guilt cosmology, including people in America that defeated the Nazis. See, I'm a Nazi according to, you know, NPR and everybody, even though both my grandfathers fought the Nazis. But imagine being the Germans. Imagine that shared guilt where there's actually some tenuous connection. Oh, so you have to reach out and show them how they have just adopted another authoritarian system, just like the Stasi, just like all the rest of it. And how their enslavement has basically become complete. So coming up, leaked docs, Brock conspires with Facebook, Google to shut down conservative media. This is a bombshell article that needs to go viral. We're going to tie it into all of it today. But before I go any further, let's get to that incredible speech given just 2.5 hours ago by the 45th President of the United States, where he attacks fake polls and where he exposes the enemy, the foreign-owned corporate sloth media, the dinosaur giant sloth media, that is now digging its own grave in front of everyone and has already basically climbed in and is now dumping piles of dirt on top of itself with pleasure, with delusional pleasure. So all that psychosis is going on. Trump continues to basically turn the knife and reads the law. Let's just hope the Ninth Circuit of globalist cultural boobies, let's hope that those pirates assaulting our sovereignty realize that it's going to be good if they do this because now the courts will be completely discredited even more. Good. Continue to discredit yourselves. Continue to burn down your own house. Continue to ignore a statute that a 5-year-old could understand. So let's go to the commander-in-chief just hours ago, devastating the enemy. Here it is.
And I thought before I spoke about what we're really here to speak about, I would read something to you. Because you could be a lawyer, or you don't have to be a lawyer. If you were a good student in high school or a bad student in high school, you can understand this. And it's really incredible to me that we have a court case that's going on so long. As you know, in Boston, we won it with a highly respected judge and a very strong opinion. But now we're in an area that, let's just say, they are interpreting things differently than probably 100% of the people in this room. I'd like to almost know, does anybody disagree when I read this? But I'm going to read what's in dispute, what's in question, and you'll see this. It's INA 212F 8 USC 1182F. Suspension of entry or imposition of restrictions by the president. Okay, now, this isn't just me. This is for Obama, for Ronald Reagan, for the president. And this was done, very importantly, for security, something you people know more about than all of us. It was done for the security of our nation, the security of our citizens, so that people come in who aren't going to do us harm. And that's why it was done. And it couldn't have been written any more precisely. It's not like, oh, gee, we wish it were written better. It was written beautifully. So just listen. Here's what it says. This is what they're arguing. Whenever the president finds that the entry of any aliens, okay, the entry of any aliens or of any class of aliens, so any aliens, any class of aliens, into the United States. So the entry of people into the United States, let's say, just to be precise, of aliens into the United States. So any time, whenever the president finds that the entry of any alien or any class of aliens into the United States would be detrimental to the interests of the United States, right? So if I find as president that a person or a group of people will be detrimental to the interests of the United States, and certainly there's lots of examples that we have, but you shouldn't even have them necessarily. He may be, and he may, by proclamation, and for such period as he shall deem necessary. Now, the only mistake is they should have said he or she. But hopefully it won't be a she for at least another 7 years. After that, see? I just noticed that, actually. Just noticed it. I'm saying, whoa, this is not politically correct. It's correct, but it's not politically correct, you know? This is the old days. He may, by proclamation, and for such period as he shall deem necessary. So here it is. People coming in. Suspend the entry of all aliens, right? That's what it says. It's not like, again, a bad high school student would understand this. Anybody would understand this. Suspend the entry of all aliens or any class of aliens as immigrants or non-immigrants, or impose on the entry of aliens. Okay, so you can suspend the aliens, right? You can suspend the aliens from coming in. Very strong. Or impose on the entry of aliens any restrictions he may deem to be appropriate. Okay. So you can suspend, you can put restrictions, you can do whatever you want. And this is for the security of the country, which, again, you're the chiefs, you're the sheriffs. You understand this. And I listened to lawyers on both sides last night, and they were talking about things that had just nothing to do with it. I listened to a panel of judges, and I'll comment on that. I will not comment on the statements made by certainly one judge. But I have to be honest that if these judges wanted to, in my opinion, help the court in terms of respect for the court, they do what they should be doing. I mean, it's so sad. They should be, you know, when you read something so simple and so beautifully written and so perfectly written, other than the one statement, of course, having to do with he or she. But when you read something so perfectly written and so clear to anybody, and then you have lawyers, and I watched last night in amazement, and I heard things that I couldn't believe. Things that really had nothing to do with what I just read. And I don't ever want to call a court biased, so I won't call it biased. And we haven't had a decision yet. But courts seem to be so political. And it would be so great for our justice system if they would be able to read a statement and do what's right.
That's right. And they go, oh, my gosh, a president's never attacked the court like this. It's fascism. When there have been Supreme Court justices and people arrested and put on house arrest by presidents. And I'm not calling for things Lincoln did. But it's like, hey, you're legislating from the bench. You're not supposed to do that. This law, a 5-year-old can understand that. Forget a bad high school student. And then they just sit there with a straight face going, no, it doesn't say that. It doesn't say that because he's trying to block somebody because of their religion specifically. No, from unvetted nations that have a cult version of that religion that says you should blow yourself up to kill the infidels. And we've all seen what's happening with that. And by the way, coming up today, we have one of the big whistleblowers coming on who came out 2 years ago. We have a guest joining us, Philip Haney, who was a high-level analyst for the Customs Department, and he goes over the memos they were given, being told, do not even say that Muslim extremism exists, or ask someone if they're part of Islamic Jihad, or part of Hamas, or part of the PLO, or part of Hezbollah, because it doesn't exist. And then you saw that on the media, where there'd be terror attacks in San Bernardino or Fort Hood, and they'd say this wasn't an Islamic attack. They're screaming, Allah Akbar. So this is the mind control. And again, you want to see the style of it. Look at Germany. Look at Sweden. Look at France, where it is mass Stockholm syndrome. And people are into worshiping their abusers. They're into self-loathing, and it's a form of cuckolding. It is. The women go out and hand flowers out to the jihadists, and after there's mass rapes and grovel. And again, I hate Germany. I hate Sweden. I hate France. I want to submit to you. And the imam of Jerusalem gets up on TV and says, they are weak in Europe. Their women are ours. We will take them, and we will take over with the children. The West is going to fall. Praise be to Allah. Everyone's like, we worship you. Just destroy us, kill us. It's mass cultural suicide. And then Trump dares stand up against it, and they just squeal and yell and lie. And It's like when he fired the new attorney general that was an interim attorney general because she wouldn't follow his legal order. They went, Monday Night Massacre, CNN. Unprecedented hatred and evil. But because they can't debate us, they're trying to censor us everywhere. So let's go to Alan Dershowitz, big liberal lawyer, but he's saying, no, Trump has the power to do what he's doing. Again, this is a war against the delusionals and those of us that are in the fact-based reality world. And there's right-wingers that are just as bad, like Karl Rove, saying he controls reality. He didn't control reality when I confronted him in an airport. He was basically pissing his pants. Let's go, just from questions, let's go ahead and go to this Alan Dershowitz clip.
I think you could have made a much stronger argument on the whole Establishment Clause issue. Here you have the United States government taking the position that this is Islamic terrorism, as distinguished from the prior administration. That's their position. It's Islamic terrorism. Why should anybody be surprised that the 7 nations are nations of Islam? Consider what was one of the greatest successes in American history, the War Refugee Board in 1944, that was focused on specifically rescuing Jews, because Jews were the victims of Nazism. And here you have a statute that specifically focuses on rescuing minority religions. That could be Sunnis and Shia countries, could be Kurds, could be... This is not an Establishment Clause violation. And I'm shocked that the government did not make a stronger argument for that.
Now let's expand on something here, too. Syria, before the globalist pogrom to drive the Christians out, the UN admits persecution of Christians is at all-time highs, was roughly 20% Christian. If you go look at who Obama let out, it's something like 0.2, 0.4, depending on the period. They won't let Christians get out. Most of them are actually Sunnis. They don't really let Shiites get out either. This is a resupply effort of the failed Sunni Wahhabist armies that came in from all over the world, from Chechnya, Saudi Arabia, North Africa, for the great Hajj of jihad. Because then, the House of Islam is the House of Islam. Outside the house is the House of War. And so they came to get living space. They came to get new land. They came to invade and take the prosperous country of Syria, just as the Saudi Arabians had done in the last century. And so they came in and they got their ass kicked. So they had to have Turkey and Merkel and everybody open the doors, advertise, have the media, stage little dead kids on the side of the beach and say, come on, come on, come on. Come on, bring down Europe. Let's get it going. EU, let's collapse this sucker. And it's in all the loving EU documents. Peter Sutherland, we're going to end the homogeneity of Europe. Anti-white, racist garbage. We'll be back. Stay with us. This has been adopted as of 2017 by the Department of Defense. All 4 branches of the military, Combat 1. And guess who in the spring of 2017 has the exclusive right to sell this to everybody else but the military? Infowars.com. I want to commend Q and Patrick and the rest of our team. I want to commend Combat 1 for getting the big Pentagon deal. And I want to thank them for supporting us because they know we support America. We are the exclusive source of Combat 1 skin and muscle optimization, field foam, field spray, skin and muscle optimization, and broad spectrum hygiene tactical bath. Contains 8 pre-moistened cloths. Ladies and gentlemen, these are incredibly affordable, and they have patented proprietary systems. That's why it's been adopted by the Pentagon, by the Defense Department, system-wide. I'm going to go over some of the numbers, some of the proven statistics, and the claims that Combat 1 can make right now. Never before has the public been able to access this new Combat 1 military-grade hygiene technology used by special operations to maintain hygiene during survival situations. Studied for safety and effectiveness by St. John's Medical Research Institute, St. Jude's, and the American Journal of Infection Control. The technology behind Combat 1 wipes kills bad bacteria while leaving beneficial skin bacteria unharmed. That's the key buffer. The toxic wipes, the sanitizers kill everything, including your immune system. They lower your fertility. It's all admitted. Combat 1 is able to do this naturally by only targeting the bad stuff. And again, it's all patented. It's super secret. 12 years, Special Forces testing it. This is something every info warrior needs to order, needs to have in their home, needs to use in their daily lives, whether it's cleaning your guns or your own skin or when you're out camping. This is the game changer. The entire family of Combat 1 is available exclusively at InfoWarsStore.com.
Just coming back from the river where I was using one of our water filtration straws, a certain device we sell here at InfoWarsStore.com, and I had smacked my knuckle pretty hard the other day with my knife after cleaning one of the animals. So I want to use some Combat 1 foam, show you guys that we actually use it, how well it works. This wound's been open for about 5 days now. I just dipped it in and out of the river, so just to better safe than sorry. Once I let that soak in, I'll wrap it up, field dress, and nice and clean again.
And it certainly is coming to the rescue with Combat 1, born in America, made in America, and now distributed by InfoWars to America.